Welcome in, everyone. The streets are buzzing. Today, special preview, talking Knicks Pacers, hot off the game 5. We've got Coach Nick, BBallbreakdown, the best in the biz at breaking it down. We've got lots to talk about. Coach, great to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to come on and talk Knicks basketball.
Yeah, certainly a lot happening in the news today as well, but the Knicks bounced back in a major way with backs to the wall, right? I want to get your thoughts on how this series is going to this point and looking ahead, of course, to Game 6 and possibly Game 7 as well. But yeah, how have you seen things so far? I know you've been dropping some amazing content. You just dropped a video, like 10 minutes ago as well, on how Jalen Brunson was able to get loose as well and some key adjustments.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because when OG goes down and everyone seems to be breaking down and Brunson's foot, it kind of felt like it was over and Indiana was just going to take it. And yet here we are. Brunson doesn't seem to be having any issues with his foot, as far as I could tell, the way he played last night. Josh Hart doesn't have any problem playing 48 minutes a game. And it's, you have to give Thibs a lot of credit. I feel like he's out coaching Carlisle. And part of it is that there's no imagination, I kind of feel like, with the defense. And we know that Indiana's defense is really pretty bad anyway, so he might just sort of, throw up his hands and be like, we can't do much on defense because they're just not good at it. But it really is striking to me how often they're going to let Brunson just go one-on-one in an ISO situation on Nembhard. It's not fair to Nembhard. It's not fair to Nesmith. Not even fair to TJ McConnell. And yet they just keep doing that, and that is weird. And even when they do try and double, the rotations are bad. So all these things factor into the reason why he's scoring so much. And bottom line is it's why they're going to beat them.
Yeah, definitely. I think we saw, the counterpunch to Carlisle's previous adjustment with Aaron Nesmith, using the size and the length to try to bother Brunson, like Kelly Oubre kind of tried, and the Pacers, the Philly tried as well. But with Brunson, his IQ, we've talked about it, how studying the game and being a true savant in terms of the point guard, like he knows, and the adjustment with Thibs getting Miles McBride there and going small to spread the floor out. What did you think of that versus using Precious Achua earlier in games 3 and 4 to follow up with OG's spot? Now they've got extra shooting on the floor.
Yeah, well, the way Precious plays, like he'll make a play or two that are positive, and then he'll make a number of plays that are just, frustrating as a coach. And you can't trust a guy to be out there in a playoff game because of those things. He'll do like the strangest decisions, and so I could see why you'd want to bring someone in who's also athletic and explosive and who can shoot, certainly, because you're not going to get that. Although I do feel like Precious at some point in Toronto was shooting threes. Am I crazy? Am I back in the day? My mind. But nonetheless, he's not doing that in New York. And so what's nice is that they can screen Brunson with a McBride. And now they can kind of pick and choose whoever is guarding McBride. They can now, isolate on him and make that a lot harder. And, the only thing is when the longer Brunson has the ball in his hands, the worse it is for the Pacers. And it shouldn't be as hard as they're making it out to be to get it out of his hands and keep it out of his hands. And they're not. That's the problem, and it's frustrating to see that. Now with McBride out there, yes, the pick and pops are awesome. In there, he's hitting those threes. Is the weak side guy standing there watching? Is Obi Toppin just standing there and not rotating on that one of them? It's like, how hard would that be? Because there's plenty of the way the defense would have to shift. They'd cover the corner when it goes wing corner. They'd have enough time to get there. But he literally just doesn't even move. And I know Josh Hart is shooting really well. I don't think that's the one he didn't want to leave, but McBride's shooting it just as well. And you have to rotate. So there's just a lack of, like, it just feels like there's not a lot of, like the Indiana Pacers don't practice defense. It's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying now, Coach, they just don't feel like the Pacers have the personnel, let alone, falling behind on making the adjustment to the adjustment. All season, the Pacers have been an up-tempo team, and they've really impressed me in ways that, they've become more tougher and more resilient, but still big question marks over how they were able to, to counter what the Knicks can do. And you had to think, the Pacers had to think that the Knicks were going to come with some adjustment the precious experiment. It almost worked in Game 3. They got blown out in Game 4, and they had to think that the Knicks would try something different for a Game 5, and that's where Deuce Miles McBride came in. But to me, the glaring weakness, like you said, Coach, is that the double. It just comes too slow. It's too lazy, and the help, just doesn't come soon enough. And Brunson's able to keep his dribble alive. That's the key. You can continue to navigate the trap if you can keep your dribble alive. And I'm sure you teach all young guards to just always keep that dribble.
Well, also on the pick and rolls, they're not really even blasting him or doubling him. They're just kind of like old school hedging. So when they bring Haliburton up to hedge, and like he split one because Haliburton just doesn't. He's not aggressive. He doesn't. I know he gets steals, but like he doesn't get close enough to maybe force either Brunson to give the ball up or pick the dribble up. So yeah, he's in the once he does that, now he's got two defenders behind him, and it's a fast break in the half court. And once he's the most comfortable of any guard in the league at that, because now you're going downhill in a fast break. A lot of guards want to be behind the 3-point line and be able to utilize that as a shot, and not as much in the 15-foot range, 16-foot range. And it's like, he blows up the notion of analytics and avoiding mid-range because he is so good at that. And if he is good at that, you should be shooting those. That's what the analytics should be telling you. And it's like, and the bigs don't even rotate. And you said like it's a personnel thing for the Pacers, but if you look down their roster, Miles Turner is a good defender. Nesmith is a good defender. Siakam is a good defender. Nembhard is a good defender. They have a lot of good defenders. It shouldn't be so disjointed as a team. I think that's the problem, and I think that's the failing right now of the coaching staff.
Yeah, look, attrition's definitely still got to come in, even though the Pacers are still deeper. But yeah, I think a younger team. I always felt like the Pacers probably a year or two early to be, flirting with the Eastern Conference Finals, But look, Siakam, that's the clear thing where I think the Pacers failed. A lot of it will be talked about with Brunson and Deuce, but you've got Siakam on Josh Hart. If the Knicks are small, you have to find a way, Coach, to punish, Josh Hart as a power forward. How do the Pacers, how can you see them doing that? Or do you think the Knicks are just going to continue to have success with this small lineup?
I mean, it's funny because small lineups had this big advantage for a long time, and then everyone else adjusted, so they didn't. Like the Warriors lost that advantage after enough years. Right? You should be able to punish him. I guess I have to picture the matchups. Does that mean did they go small with Turner in? So who was guarding Turner?
They went Hartenstein still on Turner, and then Siakam on Hart. Nesmith on DiVincenzo, Nembhard on Deuce, and Haliburton on Deuce, and Nembhard on Brunson.
Yeah, I mean, so there's no question. Yes, I think what you're also asking is that they should go down to the post and get Siakam the ball down low on Hart or anybody else who's guarding him. I can't picture that happening much at all. So that would be a good one. Although, we might need to have a discussion about Siakam, and I don't even know if he's overrated, because I'm not exactly even sure where he's rated at this point. But part of me feels like I think that he might have been a celebrated piece coming into Indiana. And I think that ultimately, he's good, but I don't think I'm not sure how much of a game changer he is or he's going to be. Does that make sense?
100%, and I've even heard some Pacers Nation talk about, they need a full preseason to sort of fully integrate. He was a big mid-season acquisition, and look, Haliburton's very ball dominant, as we know, and obviously you want the ball in his hands. So Siakam's got to find ways to have an impact. My problem with Siakam is he's not. Their problem with Siakam is that he's not a great shooter. He's not a reliable 3-point shooter as well. Obi is having a lot more success this series as well. But where the Pacers failed last night is when they tried to punish Hart. The help came really promptly, and the Knicks were awesome with swarming. With the help defense, and the big blew a tire. Every single time he got the ball stripped, knocked, tapped out from Hart. Hart just did amazing work, battling Siakam in the post. And then also Obi as well. Whenever Obi tried to punish, Obi's not a bruising type of power forward anyway. That's not his game. And so that the Pacers weren't just able to do that as well. The main success they had was Miles Turner pick and popping three-pointers in a row for a 9-0 run. but the Knicks just adjusted after that. And look, the home court advantage at MSG is huge, but I kind of feel like this is the grand adjustment. I can't see them, really, really hurting the Knicks. And I think the Deuce McBride insertion into the starting lineup was bigger for defense rather than offense, because slowing down Tyrese, the Knicks actually had a fresh body, coach, that could pick up Haliburton further up the court and make sure that he doesn't, get downhill.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean that is really a great thing to see. But by the way, the funny thing about the Miles Turner threes, the adjustment was that he's not going to keep making threes, right? Because no one will make 4, 5, 6 in a row. He was going to start missing those too. I think he fell in love with that a little bit too much, and he's not commanding the low post position either. Now that said, Hartenstein is really good down there, and so it is not easy to get there. But so it's interesting because all these little pieces, and as like when OG goes down, and then all of a sudden Hartenstein gets a little bit more of a role, and Hart gets more of a role. It's you can see how good NBA players are, and when they get a chance, they can have more success. And then you'll see other teams that have guys who have these huge roles, and it's like, how do they get that role? Do they really deserve that role? Is this someone who anybody in the NBA could do that? And but they somehow got picked. I won't even get into who I'm talking about, but maybe I'm watching that game was before I got on live. So the point being that it's like, yeah, Hartenstein could be a guy who plays high post in their offense, is a good passer. Is he a great passer? He's a really good passer. He can finish. He's got floaters. He's got, he's just got a great feel for the game. So it's like, like for instance, I didn't think they were going to be able to win the series without OG. It felt like that. But now I'm thinking, if they can get OG back, they can get to the finals. What is the prognosis for OG right now? Do we know anything about when he might come back?
Yeah, so we're getting some more positive news that he's getting treatment, 8 hours a day right now, and he's open for chance to be a possible Game 7, but more likely Game 1, Game 2 Eastern Conference Finals. So that would be about a 2-week timeline. So they haven't reported how severe the strain is, but all indications point to being a more mild strain. The fact that he is sort of more day to day and open for a Eastern Conference Finals return. So yeah, I'm looking at that. And as you said, if the Knicks can just close this one out in 6 hopefully, or 7, OG should be a big factor, like you said. And look, we're seeing with Boston right now. No Donovan Mitchell. I know looks like they're about to eliminate Cleveland up 10, but Cleveland were really in their ball game early. No Donovan Mitchell. With Donovan Mitchell, they looked like they could really kind of go toe to toe. Not going to say beat Boston, but I'm with you. Like OG is a real game changer.
I have it as 6-point game going into the fourth quarter, right? Am I adding that up right? 85-79?
Oh, yep. They just made a couple threes. Yeah, it was 10.
Closer. I mean, that's too close for a team that's supposed to be as dominant as the Celtics are. And I've said this on my show earlier. Thibs has to be drooling when he's watching the Celtics run their offense because there's no movement. Man, are these guys hitting tough shots? It's like Derek White is hitting tough shots, and Jason Tatum's hitting threes off the dribble because they don't move the ball. It really is startling in a way because I thought what happened a couple of years ago that kind of turned the whole thing around was all the ball movement that looked really good. It looked just like what the Pacers do now, right? And that's what the Knicks need to be a little bit worried about is they're still having a number of possessions where that ball starts flying around the perimeter so quickly that they cannot keep up, and they're getting good shots. And it's a pleasure to watch when the Pacers do that. I suppose it's a testament to how hard it is to do that they don't do it every time. And then obviously the defense does have something to say about that. But, it's an interesting way to a dichotomy, too, because you're having that kind of offense going, and then you have the Knicks, which are a little bit more methodical. They'll ISO with Brunson a lot more. Although then I felt like in the last game, the Knicks started doing what the Pacers had been doing, right? They started flinging the ball all over the place in a good way. So it's a weird, interesting series how this is going to go, which is why it makes me wonder, like, I think winning the Game 5 is it. That should be pretty much determine the series. I think the Knicks have won the series, right? It's just a matter of which game, 6 or 7. But yeah, I have to imagine that just Thibs must be just really excited to craft his defense against an offense that's not going to move much. And if they have OG, they match up really, really well.
Oh, 100% agree with you, and that's why I've felt this way, and a lot of Knicks fans have for months. That give us Boston when we're fully healthy, and yes, we're quietly confident, and some of us are a little cocky, but we feel like Boston is exactly like you said. That I take my turn, you take your turn. It's literally Jaylen Brown isolation. Next time it's Tatum, and the Knicks. What they have outside of all the great coaching and the scheme, they'll have defenders that take pride. Okay, I'm going to take my man. I'm capable. I'm Josh Hart. I'm undersized, but I'm capable of holding my own in the post. If I'm OG, I'm going to make sure I'm going to hold my matchup. And if you got five guys that can do that, you can fluster any offense, and plays break down. Like you said with Indiana, they play so free flowing and so loosey goosey that look, if you go up against a really good defensive team, I think the Knicks can really have their number like we're seeing. But the keys for me after Game 4, Coach, the number one key was to slow Tyrese down, because when he was getting downhill, he was literally their offense. He was the Jalen Brunson for them, and the Knicks had no answer in Game 4, and it was a blowout. But then you insert Deuce McBride, who not only is the Knicks one of the best perimeter defenders, period, but Deuce McBride was one of the freshest bodies that people weren't talking about. Everyone talked about Hart being exhausted, Devo exhausted, Brunson not being at 100%. But Deuce McBride's been coming off the bench for most of the year, and he's fresh. And I think we saw that at the Garden, and obviously we had the raucous crowd and everything. But what do you think? What are your thoughts in terms of an elimination game on the road? I know it's the hardest kind of environment, but the fact that the Knicks have 2 days rest now, and it'll be their third time playing on the road, did the players' mindset feel a little more comfortable having played 2 games in that building already?
Yeah, for sure. I don't think these guys are going to be intimidated by that, and that's good. It's funny because the home court advantage isn't as much of an advantage anymore in the modern game. So that's already something. Even though Indiana's arena is loud, like they actually they really bring it when they want it. When they now that they're getting a taste of the deep in the playoffs again after a while. So that could be intimidating, but you're not. DiVincenzo is not going to be phased by that. Brunson is not going to be phased. I don't think Hartenstein is going to be phased by that. So these guys are gonna be able to perform. I would be surprised if it looked anything like that. That said, I'm sure it'll be a really tough game. And I'm sure they're going to be scratching and clawing and fighting. We're going to see more nose-to-nose stuff without question, and the referees will have their hands full because. I mean, listen, I'm really glad they overturned that one call from Brunson when he ran into Nesmith coming across to get a pass from the top of the key. And they overturned it, right? That play, and that was good because that was a little ridiculous, like I thought what Brunson did. And then that said, but then Brunson and other ones too, where Nesmith just ran smack right into him, and it's like, why are you doing that? This is probably just not for you. And that, by the way, that's the other interesting thing about when you're coaching defense. Oftentimes, you're trying to coach people to have smoke coming out of your ears. You're trying to go 120% speed because coaches figure, well, on the defensive end, you can do that. You don't have the ball in your hand. But it turns out that what my mantra is, defense is just offense without the ball. You still have a five-man unit moving in unison with spacing and angles and timing and all sorts of things. And if you are trying to play too hard, then you're not going to be balanced. You're not going to read the floor the way you would need to, like you would have to do it on offense. So that's when you start getting stuff like that, where Nesmith just accelerates as fast as he can, and all of a sudden now he takes a bad vector, he runs right into it, and gives him an and one, and now Brunson's off to the races. So that's what happens with these games. So again, expect all of that. Expect the referees to try and get control early, which makes me worry that someone's going to get into early foul trouble with 2 fouls in the first 4 minutes, and that's going to muck up the game. So we'll have to see about that. And then obviously injuries. We have to be concerned about the injuries, and anything with the Knicks in terms of being worn out or overplayed is always a thing.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the first thing to consider is this is the first time in this series that there's a 2-day rest between games. So, as you said, I agree with you. I think the Knicks will look more composed in Indiana for Game 6 than they have. Although Game 3 that was excellent, but we got an amazing performance from DiVincenzo with 35 points, an amazing performance from Alec Burks, who that was the first game that he came in. We'll talk a little bit about Alec Burks staying ready and scoring 18 points as well. He's basically taken up the scoring, missed by Bogdanovic, OG, and that. But his defense looked a lot better. But yeah, on the road, I think it'll be key. The Pacers will just want to run, coach. They'll want to push it off makes, even like they did. Obi Toppin was just getting up the floor too. And if the Knicks can get back in transition and just slow the game down, be in the game at halftime, and then the doubt will start to maybe creep in with Indiana. And look, Tyrese, they're not making a lot about it, but he doesn't seem to be at 100%. However, there's no excuses for his performance in Game 5, right? He took 9 shots only on the road, and a lot of people are wondering why, coach. He put up at least like 25, 30 shots in Game 4. What do you think is the difference between a player like him only shooting 9 times at MSG?
I went such a deep dive on the Brunson stuff today that I'm kind of like blocked out the Pacers offense. But obviously, so Deuce was a factor. I'm trying to picture how they were guarding if they were like trying to deny him and stuff like that.
Yeah, Deuce was basically on him from 3/4 court, and then he was basically guarding him really well without fouling on every single cut. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that now, because here's what's so interesting is, the Pacers early on were trying to press full court to wear them out, right? Wear the 7-man rotation out. And that's, you can argue that's what happened to OG, right? OG, and not that he was bringing the ball up a lot, but when you're pressing and now he's got to be cutting and moving, and it was a very fast-paced game, I believe, in that one, it did indicate to me that there was some success there. And as a long, Carlisle's playing the long game here, they're going to slowly wear them out. But the press wasn't doing anything, after a certain amount of time. Not that it would ever force that many turnovers anyway, but it seemed like that was a good adjustment. So the funny thing was, is that now the Knicks seem to want to give it back to them. It's like, okay, we'll press you a little bit, and that's when you had the fresh McBride. The other funny thing about being fresh is that when Brunson hurt his foot and he missed all the second quarter of whatever game that was, remember, was that game 2?
Yep, Game 2.
He comes back and has an amazing second half because he's fresh. He didn't play. He had a lot less minutes in the first half, and so it's almost like, hey, take maybe if you did that a little bit better and judiciously, then you'd have a little bit fresher legs. Not that he hasn't been fresh anyway, but it's a startling thing. And so anyway, so yes, I do think that he's still hurting. I still think that he's suffering from the injuries from earlier this season. Haliburton is. And when you have a bulldog like Deuce McBride on you, and he's got all this energy, it's not easy. And then the offense needs to get better. And I'm sure they will. They'll figure out ways to start running a little bit more like pin downs into handoffs for him, try and get some separation so he can turn the corner on that stuff instead of having to catch it and then try and break somebody down off the dribble.
Yeah, definitely. And look, if you're on the Knicks side of things and you think you sound confident the Knicks will still win 6 or 7, but let's say, for example, the plan is to go full steam ahead and close them out in 6. What do you think is the best approach? Do exactly what they did in Game 5 that worked. You mentioned the Miles Turner pick and pop, the 3, right? You can give that up to an extent, but like you said, even if he's hot, if they keep spamming it, he's going to miss eventually, right?
Yeah, he will miss. I mean, no one's going to shoot 100. I mean, I guess somebody can get really hot. But, they do a pretty good job of rotating the third player over. But I know that Thibs probably doesn't really want to do that. That's just why he's been popping open to some degree. But otherwise, they could experiment with switching that and then take their chances with, I don't know if Turner's going to want to try and drive on a guard because that's a lot of distance between his hand and the ground as a 7-footer. And, if it's Hart or someone like that who switched and is on to him, that would be a little bit harder. It's not really his game, So that would probably be a good adjustment there as well. Just instead of trying to hedge or trail, drop and trail, they could just switch it, and that might do a good job of blowing up everything. I would be willing to see that. I don't even know in terms of Thibs' mindset how much he likes switching. Have you noticed that in the playoffs? It does feel like less and less teams are switching just to switch. It seems like some of these players are fighting across these screens a lot better than they ever used to, and it has an effect.
100%. I'm noticing it a lot more. And the Knicks have done it ever since Thibs is here. He preaches fighting over the screens because the Knicks have had pretty solid personnel to do it. Deuce is always someone that's fought over screens, quickly tried to fight over screens when he was here as well. That seemed to be the clear instruction from Thibs, and then you insert Josh Hart. Ever since we got him, DiVincenzo likes to really get after it as well, like we're seeing. But let's talk a little bit about, yeah, you got anything on that?
Well, I was just thinking about the DiVincenzo stuff where he's getting blasted. He's blasting people. I don't, it's all. He's a competitor. People wanted to. Were on my timeline. I shared the one where he got into it with Turner, and I just said that screen itself wasn't a big deal. Like, I don't know exactly why DiVincenzo went nuts the way he did. Now, Turner hits him in the head, but it was kind of after DiVincenzo started to like dislodge him, and so he was sort of moving and falling and whatever, and then it was game on. So I just get, what I'm getting worried about is that for a little while we've been talking about illegal screens, and whenever I'm on Twitter trying to explain why it's not an illegal screen, there might be some movement. It's not like in American football where you're an offensive lineman, you have to be set, you can't move until the snap. It's not like that. But a lot of times the defender is trying to get around. There just isn't any contact, or there's just not enough contact. You can't call it, even though the screener looks like it's moving. So what is the answer to that? Well, the answer is you're a heat-seeking missile, and you just smash yourself into the screener, and you go flying, and then they have to call it. So I'm worried about that because that's going to hurt somebody. That's going to hurt either the screener or the person getting around the screen at some point. And it's just too violent of a collision, and that's what we're seeing a little bit with DiVincenzo. So I don't even know there's a good fix rules-wise, but that's what's making me a little bit nervous here because obviously with the Knicks, if DiVincenzo went down or Hart went down, obviously if Brunson goes down anyway, but like that's going to be it. They can't afford anybody else to go down.
Well, yeah, theoretically you're correct, and it'd be very, very tough. But one thing we've got to talk about is Alec Burks as well, and I want to tie this in with playing Brunson off ball. He was being exhausted, having to bring the ball up in game 1 and 2, coach, and Philly tried this too to pick up full court for the Knicks, and I'm seeing this more than I've ever seen. Clearly, the instruction is to wear Brunson down as much as possible. Because if you're the opposing coach, he's their engine and he's their offense and he's everything. And the slower you can get the Knicks into their offense, the better for you. But what is helped, obviously with Deuce McBride, and now we'll talk a little bit about Alec Burks. He's 6'6", wide frame, able to, move, defend a little, catch and shoot like he's been doing. Having Brunson a little bit off ball, and even some possessions where he's not bringing the ball up, it's Hart, or it's Deuce, or it's Alec Burks. That gives 4 other ball handlers on the court where they'll be like, okay, Brunson, I'm not going to touch the ball in this possession. You bring it up. And suddenly the defender on Brunson just, is being neutralized. That's been a real key for me because Jalen Brunson can play off ball like no other in terms of point guards.
What I noticed was they're doing it like when TJ McConnell comes in. They'll get him off ball, A, because they know that he'll hound him in the backcourt, and that'll wear him out for sure. And then B, they want him, they get some separation or force a switch off the screens. So you'll see that for sure. By the way, it's coaching criminality that they don't have TJ playing more than 20 minutes in the game. He should be playing 25 minutes at least. And I'm not even talking about the defense he's doing on Brunson. It's the offense. The way he gets them in their offense is awesome. So, but yes, I actually did the video the other day with focusing on who's bringing the ball up in the Denver series. Because what we're seeing is Aaron Gordon slowly ramping up game to game of the number of possessions he's bringing the ball up, which is you're harder to guard when you're varying your starting point in the half court offense. So if Brunson's coming and bringing the ball up sometimes, and other times he's in the corner, other times he's in the high post, other times he's on the wing, like that just makes it harder for you to be guarded. And so, I'm glad that they kind of are unlocking that because obviously DiVincenzo can bring the ball up, Hart can bring the ball up. Listen, Hartenstein can bring the ball up. Everybody in the league can bring the ball up now, which is great. So, and the interesting thing about the Aaron Gordon one was that you could see game to game, the points per possession for those possessions when he brought it up were getting higher and higher. They were getting better and better, sort of figuring that out. And then, which is good because they were ramping up the number. So the more they did it, the better they got at it. And there's no question that, yes, it would be beneficial for Brunson to be coming off of those actions to start the offense because then he'll probably finish with an ISO. So like Jordan used to do, they would run the triangle for, 15 seconds, make 4 passes, and then in a really advantageous position, they'd get Michael the ball to ISO or do his thing in a pretty efficient way. It's pretty much what we're seeing, and it's somewhat similar. And by the way, the triangle is still alive, and the Knicks are still running quite a bit of triangle of action. It's pretty fun to see.
Yeah, it's definitely, and I know you're a big triangle guy, and I've been pleasantly surprised how much better the offense has looked this year. And the Knicks deserve a lot of credit. Obviously, their personnel got drastically upgraded and excellent isolation players. But one quote that DiVincenzo said, coach, that I really love, he said, "The ball has energy. You have to trust that when you give it up, it's going to come back to you." And I think the Knicks have a level of unpredictability where ultimately you don't know who's going to take the final shot, because Thibs preaches once a guy gets a good shot, like he trusts the guy and he says, shoot it. Like, I want you to take that shot. But most of the time the ball ends up back with Brunson's hands, obviously later in the shot clock. But the fact that he gives it up early and trusts that it'll come back to him in a better position, I think has allowed the Knicks to really thrive. But another question for you is the guard screening, Deuce McBride screening Brunson to free him up onto the lesser defender. Is there any counter to that? Can the Knicks, do you see them just continuing to have success with that? What do the Pacers have to do to kind of make that more difficult? Trap better, or?
Yeah, well, certainly. I mean, they could try and trap better. I mean, in my memory, it's Haliburton on Deuce, right? So he's the guy who they're screening with. So it's not going to get better. He's not going to suddenly, I don't think, become like a really good defender in the pick and roll in that sense. Probably doesn't have a lot of experience with it. So the one thing you could do, but again, they showed I don't know how out of the box Carlisle could ever be the way he is, but defensively. But what you could do is as McBride is on his way up to screen, you switch and you have like Nesmith run up there and let Haliburton sort of zone out down by the in the corner. Now they could play zone. They could try playing zone as well. They don't really do it, but you could experiment with it. And I think I caught a couple of possessions that they screwed up. They wasn't great, so I could see why they got out of it. You know what it was? If I'm remembering correctly, you have to forgive me. My mind is mush after all those. I must have went through, I don't know, 500 clips today, but I think I'm picturing like one player was playing man and the other guys were playing zone, and it fell apart. They gave up a wide open shot, I think. So I would see why Carlisle would not want to try that, but certainly you could do that where you early scram them out of there. So get Haliburton out of there and let Nesmith or Nemhard or TJ, if they're part of, well, TJ's probably on the ball, whatever, but get them up there and let them switch before that happens, and then you can just switch that and negate it. But again, that requires communication, it requires familiarity, all that stuff that they might not have, going into the last game of the season potentially.
Yeah, like you said many things, and I'll definitely talk about sort of Tyrese not being, the greatest defender, and sub defensively, in game 5, he's drawing a lot of criticism as well, because he was just swiping at the ball and then he was late, and then he just wasn't using any kind of physicality to worry Brunson. But the reason why I think the Knicks will continue to have success is Deuce Miles McBride was a pick and pop threat. You saw that one where Brunson just basically passed the ball around his back. Brunson is so ready to give the ball up the second, the hedge comes and that. And then you got Deuce ready to play make or shoot the three. It could literally be unguardable if the Knicks can just execute.
Yeah.
That, time and time again.
And it's great to see. It's great to see Deuce, get some run and get confidence and perform, And again, you wonder why. And then even with Burks as well, it's like he could have helped. He really could have helped this whole time that they wasn't playing. And, you could probably sense, why Thibs didn't want to play him is because he doesn't maybe play defense the way he wants him to or whatever. But, he had one play, if I'm not mistaken, he got near the lane line, did a jump stop, pass fake, and then shot a little half floater. And that was such a perfect play, perfect veteran move under control and fake the defensive out and then hit it was probably, I think it was I can't remember what the score was, but that was a good microcosm of what he's able to do, aside from even the threes that he's hitting. So, listen, it's when you have a well-coached team and you have a good foundational system, then you plug people in. These are pros. They should be able to do that. And it's great to see, when it works.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, Alec Burks stayed ready. There was a lot of factors going into it. He was dealing with a shoulder concern, and Thibs played him quite a lot when the trade happened, and he just looked way worse than what we're seeing. So he's a prideful veteran. He looks more healthy now. But
Yeah.
obviously, you could just be the freshest body on the court, and you can just stand out. You might just have the legs, like the chat saying. Dante look more bouncy, and some days you just have it, some days you don't. I know everyone wants to analyze the minutes and one day rest between games and things. Like we all wake up on the right side of the bed. Some days we wake up on the wrong side of
Does
the
that
bed.
explain why on the treadmill today I just was struggling big time? I could not do it. Just one of those days.
That's right. Yeah, but yeah, it's always great to talk to you, Coach, and appreciate your time. But yeah, any last words on this series and what else you've got coming out?
I mean, again, expecting with the Game 5 win at home that they should win the series. I think that probably happens 80+% of the time. But I'm really just enjoying the series. This is a really good one. I'm not even sure what the ratings are, how many other people are really focused on this, but it's really probably been the most intriguing series, independent of the blowouts. There's some really intense stuff happening here, so it's been really fun. And I can't wait to see them again. What I'm really picturing is taking on the Celtics and making their life hard. And again, granted, KP is not out there yet. He might come back, but even with KP, he's not. KP isn't the guy who rolls all the time. He's not a guy who's going to make the offense pass the ball more and skip it and move it and all that stuff like either. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Keep your eye on that. The game plan Thibs is going to come up with defensively, I think, would do a lot of damage to the Celtics offense.
Yeah, we might even see Josh Hart guard KP. He's literally guarded everyone, Coach. He's guarded.
Yeah.
He's such a versatile player. And just the last word on Thibs. The news today is that they're looking to heavily lock in and extend Thibs this summer. And he's fully deserved it as well. I know he has his critiques as well, but I mean the Knicks are in the most stable position in probably half in your and my lifetime.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, I grew up in Chicago having to deal with the Knicks in the 90s and the 80s, and so that was no fun. But this is fun because, for how long they've had to suffer and now to build it the right way. Because, even when they had that minor success with Melo and Jason Kidd, that was a 1 year, last hurrah for a lot of those guys. So this is really something different, right, and fun because this is something they can build, and obviously they were going to want to keep Thibs. Most of the moves they've made have been just fantastic in the front office as well. So it's like, yeah, you want to keep this going for a while longer because there's going to be even more success coming in the future. And I feel like, again, the Randall thing, we've been talking about this for years now. I think that they're better. They're better without him. He has value. Maybe not one for one in terms of the salary. So they should be able to trade him and make him into two good players that will really complement everybody else, and then they can win a title.
Look, the OG trade changed a lot of things, and there's 29 other teams that would walk on coal to get an OG Anunoby, and we're blessed to have him. Obviously, there's some durability issues which the fans are a little concerned about paying him 30, 35, 40 mil. But we've seen his impact. The Knicks are 26-5 with him as well. And you have your best chance to dethrone Boston, the Eastern Conference. And to be the best, you've got to beat the best. So look forward to a potential Eastern Conference Finals matchup. Keep dropping amazing content. And hopefully we're talking about a great Eastern Conference Final matchup between two major markets.
Yeah, I'm sure the NBA will be very excited about that as well. So we'll definitely let's do it again when they get back in the conference finals.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, always appreciate your time, Coach. And everyone check out BBallbreakdown, the great video Coach has just dropped as well on the Joker and Brunson, right? I know Kendrick Perkins is the governor of New York and the Brunson, the big body Brunson club. But you've also been really, really complimentary of Brunson. And obviously your quote went viral that I shared. And, if you're studying anyone's game, he's the person you want to study. So
right.
That's a testament to the work that Brunson's put in. And look, there are some people that still don't think he's a superstar and whatever, but he's a winning player,
Yeah, and it's frustrating to see all the hate that's going on because they don't like the how he draws fouls. And I continue to spend a lot of time trying to explain how he's just pulling up for a jump shot and the guy is running up his back or running into his side, and he's varying the gather, which is keeps the defense off balance. I teach that now with the high schoolers to make sure they understand how you can do that. It's a supreme display of skill, and so certainly he should be rewarded for that. And just, for all you guys out there listening, just ignore all the other people who are saying stuff. It's a small, very small minority.
Yeah, you do have to protect the offensive player at some point. They need the space to do what they want to do. But I agree with you heavily about the rip through, and the damage that might cause with people's, face copying an elbow as well. But I'm going to continue streaming a little bit and take some questions. But yeah, as you duck out, appreciate your time, Coach, and yeah, let's talk soon.
You got it. I appreciate it. Always enjoyed talking with you, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yep, definitely. Have a great day.
Yeah, take care.
Coach Nick, B-Ball Breakdown. CT on the streets are buzzing. Guys, take some questions, talk about it a little bit as we, take a couple days rest. And look, it comes at the best time of this series as the New York Knicks punched back and made the biggest counter of the series so far as well. And as we just talked about with Coach Nick, I don't see, the Pacers can do a little bit better in terms of effort, rebounding, and, try to trap Brunson a little sharper. But I don't see, I see the Knicks still having more success with what worked in Game 5. But obviously playing in Indy, it's the crowd there, and there's a different challenge. Pacers will obviously increase their effort. The key for me will be for the New York Knicks to bring that same level of energy, right? Forget the Garden crowd now. It's not going to be there. To close the team out on the road in Indy requires the same level of effort that they showed in Game 5, and I think they're going to do it. Fam, we closed Philly out. We saw Brunson and Co's reaction on their face. They still look like Game 4 does, still linger. And I think, look, the Knicks know they can close the team out. As we look ahead now at the score, Boston looks like they're about to eliminate Cleveland and book an Eastern Conference final berth. As we're speaking, they're up 113-96 with under a minute remaining as well. So Boston, look, Cleveland, credit to them for fighting today without Donovan Mitchell, Karis LeVert, and Jared Allen. But Mook Morris Sr. stepped up and gave them a big punch. But that just wasn't enough. So here we go, man. Boston close him out in 5. What are your thoughts on that, fam? You heard straight from the horse's mouth with Coach Nick that the Knicks have a chance to beat Boston, right? That he really believes that. OG Anunoby, good matchup. Boston look a little stagnant. You take your turn, I take my turn. Drew Holiday's kind of dropped off a little offensively. Still a great defender. Derek White stepped his game up this season, but really look forward to it, man. Closing Indy out. Hopefully the sooner the better. And then get on to the third round matchup, fam. For the first time since 2000, man, when the ball dropped. Fam, Andrizzi's in the building. João Barrera, AP, Kenny Payne, Kaiser Soze, and chat. Appreciate you guys for joining. What's on your mind? Kenny Payne says, I need this rest, fam. Say less, man. Truer words never been spoken. I think the whole team, everyone, Thibs, yeah, this 2-day rest has come at a really great time, man. After a win too, we can take stock and hopefully follow up with the same game plan to close Indy out as well. Third time's a charm. As I asked Coach, what's the mindset of a team that hasn't had success on the road but is going back to the road building for the third time in a series? Indiana weren't able to do it last night, but I think this Game 6 will be the closest game yet, fam. And I know Game 3 was really close, but I think the Knicks really are focused, man. They're locked in. You guys hear what Coach Carlisle described the Knicks as? He says they're five guys like Navy SEALs in a Knicks jersey as well. So that was a good compliment in terms of, yeah, these guys are active, tough, resilient, warriors as well. They just get after it, and they're just so tough to beat, man. One guy goes down and the next guy comes in and backs him up, and that's play after play, not just game to game as well. And look, Alec Burks, man, he's deserving all the flowers he's getting, as well as Tom Thibodeau, for me. And look, Tom Thibodeau coached an A-plus game last night, right, on the season so far, and the news coming out today that the Knicks will be looking to extend Thibs in the summer for potentially, I don't know how long the deal might be. There might be some options as a part of the deal, but there was talk from Shams that it could be around the $10 million per year as well, which would make him one of the highest, well-respected coaches currently going around the league. AP says, I think they're going to shock us and close it out too. It all depends on how much Indy has left, I think there's a lot of talk about how much the Knicks had left, fam, but a lot of talk should be like, okay, what does Indiana have left now? They're a young team. They've really, held themselves higher, than a lot of people felt this postseason. I know they caught a break with, Milwaukee being shorthanded, the Knicks being shorthanded, but they still won their 2 games at home, almost won a game in MSG, but this might just be the end of the road, I think, for Philly too. What's up, G, man? Appreciate you. Glad you could join us, and love hearing from you as well, fam. Keep it coming. Yeah, a lot of talk about Julius Randall, and I want to say more of my thoughts for the off-season with that. But yeah, I completely understand how people are looking at the construction of this team now that we've seen it for half a season without Julius. But yeah, there's a lot of recency bias. I think Julius with this team could make it more scary than what it is as well. But I also understand that the team plays in a different style without Randall too. And the players that are currently playing really complement each other with the ball movement, the defense as well, and the switchability as well. AP says, the last time the Knicks made the ECF, you were 23, fam. It's been too long, man. Yeah, definitely it's been too long. I know we had great success in 2013 with Woody. Shout out to some of the legends in the building. We saw Carlo Quinn last night. Some people were surprised, but Carlo Quinn's a Queens native, of course. Mother's Day just recently passed, so he probably was, probably spending the summer with in his area with his family. But Carlo Quinn was there. 2013 Spree. We haven't seen Camby so much recently. Hope he's doing well. We have LJ there. But obviously, Pablo Prigioni was a big part of that team. I think he's an assistant coach somewhere. J.R. Smith, Shumpert, Mello, obviously there as well. Great to see Patrick Ewing back in the Garden as well. Hopefully in some kind of formal capacity. Hopefully this is something of a step in that direction. Right now, as Pat finished up coaching in Georgetown, but right now. The Garden's just buzzing, man. It's a special place to be. You see guys like John Starks, man. It looks like he still wants to be out there playing and holding the ball from the referee, getting into it with TJ McConnell. That's why we love these Knicks so much, man. They really wore that jersey with pride, and there's a lot of incentives to obviously come back to the Garden, I know. But, you could still see the passion that they showed, and I think it's really rubbing off on this current team, and giving this current group, that understanding of what it is to be a New York Knick. You'll be appreciated by the fan base forever, as long as you leave it all out there and you play to your maximum capability. You play well as a team. You defend, and we'll always respect the grit and the fight and the effort. That you see Ben Stiller as well, big season ticket holder. And look, man, Deuce McBride and Alec Burks, they were one of my keys to last night's win. Biggest keys. I mean, when Burks got traded, a lot of excitement was because we got Bogdanovic. But people did kind of forget a little bit that Alec Burks, was really, really a solid piece back in 2019, 2020. This was a guy that won us many ball games. We had a bare bones squad, that season. We had a last run of Derrick Rose, who won us a lot of ball games. But Alec Burks was a big key to getting the 4th seed of that season as well. And look, Burks' game has declined a bit, but he's still shown us that he's still got a lot left in the tank as well from the 3-point range. His defense impressed me last night. And game 3 and 4 as well. Look, limited minutes, but he really rotated well and didn't lose his man and wasn't a liability like he has been as well. So part of me is thinking now that, look, Alec Burks has had time to get his legs fresh. Obviously, his shoulder is probably feeling better. He's shooting the ball much better now, man. 5 of 8 from last night. Unbelievable. And look, he was a first round draft pick. He's a real pro and an offensive weapon when he's going. And so far he's been a revelation, in the words like Brian Windhorst said on ESPN, I think on the pod, Hoops Collective pod. They went through the breakdown today with the Deuce insertion and the effect that had, and how successful it was. But Alec Burks coming in, no one really saw him coming in, giving us 18 points right off the gate, and 3 games in, it looks like he's a part of the rotation now, and so he should be, man. He should be staying here as well, and I think moving forward, like OG now, we heard some news today from Adam Zagoria, I think as well, and some talk that OG, might be available after Game 6, for a potential 7 or Game 1, Round 3, 2. I think the Knicks are playing it cautious. He's getting his treatment. We'll see what happens, but I think it's very doubtful he'll play in this series. Obviously, we only need to win one more game. We stick to the game plan and think we can rest OG a little more. But moving forward, obviously Game 1, it'll be really ideal if we do get there. When we do get there, that he's ready to go to guard Tatum's and the Browns in Beantown for Game 1, right? As Boston have just closed Cleveland out 4-1 at home, right? You wonder what would have happened if Donovan Mitchell had been able to play the last 2 games. Could they have forced a Game 6 or 7 to really push Boston? But no KP for Boston. They've got a lot of vulnerabilities, in my opinion. I think Al Horford is really starting to show his age. He's 37 now. Luke Cornett can't move his feet very well too. So I think if the Knicks can face Boston without KP, the chances of beating them go up even higher. OG is obviously that Swiss Army knife. He can guard your Horfords even. He can guard your Tatum Brown. DiVincenzo and Hart can really get up and guard a Derek White. And like I said, I don't think Drew Holiday is really that offensive threat that he was. He's a good floor spacer now, but he ain't doing too much off the dribble. And look, I think Boston are a very good team. They deserve the number 1 seed, but I think they're as vulnerable as the number 1 seed has ever been, and the Knicks have the recipe for the right matchups in that one, man. But it all comes down to health, and OG's, physicality, his length, I think, can cause a lot of issues for a Tatum. João Brera, salute, appreciate you. Do you think Thibs will start Deuce again? 100%. I think that's the play. I think they'll maybe come up with a plan B just in case they think Carlisle will try something else. But I think you go back to what worked. I think Deuce, for many reasons, it worked. But one of the big reasons was that he's a great defender. He can slow down Haliburton. But also, he's one of the freshest bodies right now. And look, for all the talk that the Knicks are really gassed and tired, and that is true, the fact is we can shake things up by putting a really young leg, fresh-bodied Deuce McBride into the starting 5, and a guy, basically the only guy who can pick up a guy full court, has changed this matchup completely. And that's what it's done, man. Deuce is got loose, literally, like I said. And, the fact that he can shoot the 3, he can open up the defense up too. And it really exposes Indiana's weakness, for how great Indiana were offensively. My key to the series was exposing Indiana for how bad defensively they are too. You are what your record says, and you can't just suddenly become a good defensive team from the regular season to the postseason, and I think the Knicks had to do a better job at exposing Indiana with ball movement and spreading the floor. And look, timeliness that Alec Burks has found his rhythm Deuce Miles McBride has also found his rhythm as well, fam. We just need to get one more win and close these guys out too. But look, I need to give credit to Precious Achua as well, because we almost won game 3. I thought it was a solid move after OG went down. I thought rebounding, ability to guard Siakam 3s and 4s with the length. I thought Precious would help us. We almost stole game 3, like I said, but game 4 we were exposed with that. And look, great adjustment from Thibs. But Precious had 2 steals, 2 blocks last night. Great piece to bring off the bench and back up Hart. And then obviously you got Deuce and Burks, able to really reserve the help spell the backcourt as well. So look, it's a really good mix now of the 7-man rotation. No Shake Milton, no Jericho Sims, right? But we're almost there, man, at the finish line, and I think now it's go time. AP says Boston been lucky playing these hurting teams, 100%. And every player will admit it. You need a little bit of luck, like coaches said as well. Even Carlisle, even Thibs said last night, in the 99 run. Thibs was asked by Tim Bontemps last night in the post-game, what are some similarities between the 99 Knicks, with LJ, Starks, and Spree in the building, and Pat. And Thibs said, look, the togetherness, the willingness to fight for each other as well, the connectedness is big in terms of similarity. But he also referenced the luck, the Allen Houston shot in Miami, and the LJ 4-point play. You need a little bit of luck to go your way. And the Knicks have had some luck, but they've had a lot of bad luck as well with the injuries. The capitulation after game 5 to Philly, bad referee decisions as well. Bogdanovich getting hurt, Joel Embiid hurting, Mitch as well. But yeah, Boston been extremely lucky, man. Luck of the Irish with the Celtics. Duras, salute. Deuce got loose. Deuce the goose that laid the golden egg. Yeah, what a success story this season, man, for so many levels. The guy got his contract extension right after the Quickly trade, but people thought it was just a reaction to the Quickly trade. I'm inclined to disagree. I heard that Thibs was very, very high. Whether you guys love him or hate him, Mark Berman, has been a friend of our show for many years and been generous with his time when he was a beat writer. And Mark had always, Mark had been closer to Thibs than a lot of people. And we always heard that Thibs really, really loved Deuce McBride. He was very high on him from the get-go. But obviously, Emmanuel Quickly comes along and he was amazing. Quickly, hit the ground running and he was ready sooner. But the Knicks had always a decision to make. What was the plan with Deuce Miles McBride? He just wasn't getting the rightful minutes that he deserved. Obviously, the Quickly trade happened, and bang, straight away the contract was laid out on the table, ready for Deuce McBride to sign. Right, that was no coincidence, man. Let me tell you, a team doesn't just make a trade and then bring a contract extension for the next guy in line. Right, that was already in the works. You know what I'm saying? And I think the Knicks were really high on Deuce McBride. They selected him with 36th draft pick because Tom Thibodeau, stuck his neck out and said, go get me a Deuce McBride. And now you're seeing it. Tibbs has always had the faith. He put Deuce in the starting lineup. He believes what Deuce can do as well. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that, man. Deuce has really got it all ahead of him now for Knicks Nation. Salute Bricks Nation and all our diehards out here. Rocking out, fam, on the off day. What are you guys doing, man, with no Knicks games for the next 2 days, right? All the Knicks content creators on fire, salute, doing great work as well. It's a pleasure to be, on this ride with everybody and just enjoying what we're doing right now, man. What would you rather be, talking about the off-season and, fishing right now and on vacation, or talking about the Eastern Conference Finals, man, with a chance to make noise? Yeah, Duras is saying it too, man. This is facts. Deuce was cooking IQ in practice as well. He was cooking everybody, really. The man's really worked on his game, and he's built New York tough. His father was an airman as well, as I learnt. Deuce McBride from a real solid family, solid upbringing. His brother Trey McBride, shout out, played in Australia as well. So I kind of got to learn a little bit more about the McBride family. Trey McBride is also a pro baller. Like I said, was playing a little bit in Australia as well. So yeah, that family's solid, man. Look, Deuce is going to do big things in the league. Let me tell you, man. I even said it, I think All-Star there could be a ceiling, there could be a world and a ceiling where Deuce McBride could be an All-Star one day. I don't say that lightly. He'll obviously need the opportunities, but if he continues on the same ascension, I think, the man's still only 23, 24 as well. He's super young. But right now, he's a gun in his role. He's excellent, and he's a guy who's basically locking it down for us. The 3-point shooting this season has opened the ceiling up for him big time. Brick says the new OG contract needs to be prorated. Bet the over on Doncic. OG contract, man, that's going to be a big story of the offseason. Obviously, the postseason story ain't finished yet too. OG might come back and play another huge role in the third round. But what he's done so far, to me, already solidifies what needs to be done. And I expect it'll be a decent contract, a solid number as well. I don't think Leon Rose is going to overpay for anybody. I don't think anyone needs to worry or panic. I think we will get OG at a fair price. I think, right for him, right for us. Sam Rose is OG's agent. And I think they're gonna come to the meeting, ready and gonna get the business done for him as well. OG's not going anywhere as well. Isaiah Hartenstein is a little bit more of a trickier situation, right? The Knicks 100% full intention to keep Isaiah, but what he's doing right now and what he showed the world last night, man, 12 offensive rebounds, right, showcasing himself to the NBA, man. Right, the first guy since Moses Malone of 1982, correct me if I'm wrong, to put up 12 offensive rebounds since Moses Malone. Man, Isaiah's shown that he's a starting center, and I think other teams, will be perked up, looking to see if he can be had as well. But look, Isaiah bleeds orange and blue, man, and I don't think he's going nowhere, I think. Sadu, salute Deuce the Great. Let's get it. International, worldwide. D. Danny, what's up? I love OG, but with all the missed games, 30 mil, 30 for Larry Markkinen and 40 for Brunson. Man, Larry Markkinen will be a great fit on this squad, but yeah, look, the missed games, your best ability is your availability. That will never change. I think OG's been available enough for me to show that he's worth the contract. You could always trade it. I think that's what people forget as well. See, how rare an OG wing is around the league for his size is that he's always going to be a commodity on the trade market as well. So just because we pay the guy doesn't mean that we might not be able to make moves later. For example, I'm just spitballing right now, but, Brooklyn, a lot of people have eyes for a Mikal Bridges kind of thing. Well, the only way you're going to be able to trade for a Mikal Bridges or a Devin Booker or somebody of that ilk is if you're sending a piece like an OG Anunoby in a deal like that, where the other team's like, okay, we're getting a real piece. You know what I mean? Nobody's trading Devin Booker and Mikal Bridges for just spare parts and draft picks. There has to be a solid piece, going back in the deal for something like that as well. So look, you lock OG up, you lock up iHeart, you go back next year, you see how things look, on pace for a 55-win season. You see how far you can go, man. Otherwise, if it's not working out, you make some adjustments, I think. But And Alec Burks, Bojan Bogdanovic, the door is open for those guys to stick around now, in terms of being, trade targets in the future. But you lock them up. You bring Bogdanovic back on his option, $22 million. That can be some outgoing salary as well. And obviously Bogey can be a big piece off the bench next season maybe. People forget Josh Hart is going to go back to his bench role as well. How many teams will have a Josh Hart coming off their bench with Deuce Miles McBride when Randall returns as well? So, look, I know people have some issues with the Knicks' depth right now, but don't forget, when everybody comes back healthy, the depth gets better as well. Yeah, time for Dolan to really pay that luxury tax. He paid it for Amari, Melo, and Tyson Chandler, fam. He's definitely going to pay it for Jalen Brunson, Randall, and whoever else, too. Yeah, I'm saying we keep OG. I'm just saying you sign him. People have a worry about the number. And if he does start to become more injury prone, you have options in the future, I'm saying, because he will have value as well. But Brooklyn Bridge next season, maybe we complete the Villanova quartet. Could be a quintet if Ryan Arcidiacono comes back, fam. I don't claim to have any inside knowledge, man, but if this is a bet that you can bet on, I'd take my chances of betting that Ryan Arcidiacono is back on the Knicks bench at some point next season, man. He's one of Brunson's best friends, and obviously the Villanova guy as well. Thibs praised Archie for being a good practice player as well, right? Look for him to maybe fill out one of the roster spots next season. But the draft is coming up, my friends. What are your thoughts on, Atlanta getting the first overall pick, Detroit falling all the way down to 5? Looks like Spurs are going to be picking 4 and 8 as well. Maybe they're going to trade those for a veteran to speed up the timeline with Wemby. That's going to be something interesting to see. The Knicks will be picking at 24 and pick 25. And the Knicks are good at picking at that range because we found Quentin Grimes. We were going to draft Jalen Johnson from Atlanta as well. He's showing that to be a really solid young piece. Walt Perrin and these Knicks scouts have really hit on some of these later picks as well. Deuce McBride, Mitch. Picks 24 and 25. If the Knicks make one of those picks at least, I expect that we'll make a right selection for a guy who fits. And I'm looking at a 6'9", 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" wing to where, he can be OG's backup as well. Because I don't want to wear Josh Hart down, and be playing the 4 in the future. Ideally, Josh Hart's already voiced his opinion that he doesn't prefer to play the 4. Obviously he's going to do whatever the coach asks, and he's a great soldier, but, we don't need to be messing around with Josh Hart playing the 4 in the future, right? Get a proper backup 4, keep Josh Hart at the 3, draft a proper, 6'9", 6'10" wing, right? Where if OG does become injury prone later, you got somebody to come in and really be another defensive piece as well. Look, we already got the backup point guard role solidified. That's Deuce McBride. You're not drafting another backup point guard to muddy it up. And obviously your backup 2, that's a spot where you could be looking at. Alec Burks might not come back. We need a proper bucket getter off the bench. Maybe, a guy who can come in and light things up as well. Pick up where Quickly left off as well. And then you got Hart, who'll probably play the backup 3. And then that's why I said we need a proper backup 4 as well next season, right? We do have 2 draft picks as well, right? I'll keep you up to date if I hear anything happening as well. I do a lot of draft coverage as well. There's a lot of international prospects. We'll see what happens, fam, as well. We've got the combine going down right now. Bronny James trying to get his name called on draft night. Looks like maybe the Lakers might, I think, try to use up one of these picks on him. They got the 55th pick, but maybe Dallas, the talk is that they might want to come in and swoop Bronny James from LA's hands Um, they're trying to build the Spurs up faster than ever, fam. Yep. Sadu, power forward. Definitely, man. Ryan Dunn, big fan of him, fam. He's actually mocked to the Knicks with the 35th pick, fam, as well, or 38th pick in one of these mocks as well. So I don't think Dunn is going to slip that far, but if he does, man, he is CAA as well. So best believe we're going to have inside scoop on that one. The Knicks do workout players, obviously they do it discreetly as well. But if they're CAA, the Knicks will have more knowledge of the situation with that one, fam. And he'll definitely be one of the Knicks workouts. Will Ryan Dunn. We're mocked to a few wings, which is good insight. Looks like we are trying to hone in on another wing. TJ McConnell is a free agent after next season, fam. So one more season. TJ McConnell, he'll be 33 though at that point as well. We're hearing talk that Rokas Jokubaitis, the guy who they selected with 34 ahead of Deuce, is going to come down, man, and going to come to New York City. Going to go to Las Vegas, and be a part of Summer League. And then maybe he might come to training camp as well. We'll see what happens, man. We'll see how ready Rokas looks in Summer League, right? This is a guy who's won championships in Spain. To me, the key thing to look out for is Rokas should be coming to Summer League and dominate, right? He's been a pro for 4 seasons now. If he comes to Summer League and he looks like meh, that might be a sign that he might not be ready. But if he comes to Summer League and he really starts to dominate, that could be something that the Knicks look out for, man. As a nice running mate for Deuce McBride as a reserve guard. That'll be something to look out for too. He plays at good speed. He's a change of pace kind of guard. He's a lefty as well. We've got another lefty. He keeps his dribble alive. He's great in the pick and roll. Can stretch the floor out. But there's questions over his D as well. I don't know too much about Rashasha, fam, but we'll see. I think, there's a lot more scouting to be done. We've got the combine as well. But look, there's a guy, overseas, Johnny Furphy, who's from Australia as well, played 1 season with Kansas too. He's declared he might be a late first-round draft pick with high upside. That might be somebody we look out for as well. He's a 6'9" sniper, a great shooting wing. He's underweight, though, needs to get into the weight room and really bulk up with that one as well. But look, yeah, this is right up the Knicks' alley, man. We just need to find a diamond in the rough, too. Just a guy like a Devin Vassell or someone who has high upside, but you can be had later in the first round, who can score, defend, do some things as well. And look, that won't hurt with some extra depth too. Because look, Alec Burks, it's a real cool story, and and I think he's really come alive at the right time to save us. But he's 33 next season, and he's going to start to break down. And I don't want to bank on Alec Burks as being the reserve, shooting guard next season. Let's get some more young blood in the building. With all this money we're going to have to shelve out for re-signing guys, I don't think we're going to have a lot of money for guys like a DeMar DeRozan or, someone who is going to require a lot of money. We're already going to be stretched keeping everybody right now. So I think these draft picks could be something where, the Knicks get busy to find a guy who might be a little more ready, like a Jaime Jaquez, someone who Thibs might appreciate, like Deuce McBride, a guy who's been in college a little bit, is a good defender, high upside with the shooting, something like that, fam, as well. Do we look at the local connections, in New York? Do we look at Villanova as well? Do we look at the Kentucky connection as well? The Knicks like to work with familiarity as well, and know these prospects quite well as well, man. Jacob Toppin, Jake Toppin, man, he needs to continue to develop in the G League. he's definitely an underdog. He's got upside, but he's a fringe NBA player right now. It's very difficult to get a read. I think he can make a leap in 1 year. I think it's going to matter, how well he develops in the G League, fam. Players just need minutes too. And look, one great example, guys, is Deuce McBride, man. Remember all those years we were, on the brink of, the 8th seed, and we were, going back and forth. People were like, "Oh, what's happening with Deuce McBride?" Well, he was getting busy in the G League. The Knicks did a decent job with Deuce McBride, sending him back to the G League and getting him some minutes. I remember seeing, there were days when Deuce was getting 40-point performances, 30 points, just for fun, playing for the Westchester Knicks. And people thought, oh, look, it's not going to translate. He can do that in the G League. But look what we're seeing now. So, yeah, look, I have hope that, every now and then there is a big success story with the G League. Jericho Sims hasn't developed as well as some people hope, but he was the 58th pick as well. He didn't come in with an offensive skill set. His game was athleticism, playing above the rim. Hopefully his defense can improve and maybe he can stick around as the third string. But Precious Achiuwa, I think, is probably going to get offers. He might be a guy that we just can't afford. If I'm just connecting the dots, I think they make Hartenstein a priority, OG's deal a priority. They'll get the Jalen Brunson extension as a priority. And then how much money is left over after that, fam? If they pick up Bogdanovic's option, I don't know how much money there's going to be left for a Precious Achiuwa. And if a Dallas or a Cleveland or someone comes for Precious Achiuwa with a solid deal, right? It'd be hard for him to turn that down as well. So yeah, that's where we need a backup for, and I think we'll look at that. D Grant, what's up? May want to check out Troy Murphy II. Yep, let's look at that. Yeah, more guys we can just keep on the side, develop as well. I'm not saying that Thibs is going to play them right now, but you see what can happen if we draft the right guy and we let him cook for 2 or 3 seasons, like Deuce and McBride, and then when they're ready, you bring them in. It's a great way to save money as well, See, make no mistake, the reason the Knicks were able to get Deuce McBride at a discount was because he was already in our backyard. We drafted him, we're familiar with him, he was familiar with us, so he was happy to sign that deal, right? If Deuce McBride was developed from some other place, right, we're not getting him for $3 million, So, yeah, all this talk about Thibs doesn't play young players and he doesn't want draft picks and all that. That's a little bit misguided. He will play guys if they're ready. The key is if you're not ready, you won't play. So once Deuce became ready, he started to play him as well. So yeah, look, every coach loves their guys. You got to be a Thibs guy to get minutes, right? There's no point drafting another Obi Toppin. I think Leon Rose has now got the blueprint, right? If you are going to draft somebody, obviously if you are going to extend Thibs, you got to consult him. You got to also get on the same page, and that's where the Knicks have done really well recently, fam. Like Sadhu says, man, they're all taking less for us to be part of that. Look for that to continue, man. Look for eventually free agents taking more discounts to come to the New York Knicks as well. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there that the Knicks and Rich Paul, Clutch Sports, one of the reasons that they have buried the hatchet and sorted things out was because of the future and potentially a LeBron, potentially other clients, playing for the Knicks one day as well. So look, Leon Rose has done a great job at repairing relationships with former players, former legends. Still got work to do, but also other agencies as well. And just keeping things open. fam, because we don't know what's going to happen in terms of big dogs becoming available, man. Why this season has been such a success, even if our season were to end early, is because, next season we're coming in as probably the second, on paper, the second favorite out of the East. And you've got to think Milwaukee is on the decline, right? Philly is teetering with Joel Embiid entering his 30s, right, with the injuries. Orlando and Indiana, young teams on the come up. But Cleveland, if they lose Donovan Mitchell, they fall back down as well. The East has never been as wide open right now. And the New York Knicks are one of the most attractive situations for any future player, man. Especially with the ages of our guys now and the contract situations as well. Man, looking forward to it. Excited, fam. Right, little bit of hesitation and curiosity to see what happens with the OG contract. But obviously, they come and they sort that out. He's a big piece of the starting five. We haven't seen a lot of him with Julius Randall. Almighty finesse. We talked about the Thibs news today, possibly getting that extension in the summer. We heard that a few months back as well. I'm not surprised to hear that talk is resurfaced. The Knicks are obviously having a crazy run right now, and I think in the summer I think that'll be something that'll be looked at. The biggest thing that people aren't talking about is Jalen Brunson. There's talk that Jalen Brunson and the Knicks will get a massive extension done in the summer, this summer as well. Although, he's extension eligible to get more money later. I think he will get that deal. Like Kaiser Soze spells it out, man, 100%. That's why you keep drafting, man. You got to always keep these players in the pipeline too, fam. You never know when they're next going to come up. Look at Denver now. They got Christian Brown. This guy is just a good role player. Michael Porter Jr. They don't reach the levels that they have without that 15th draft pick, and getting lucky with Michael Porter Jr. with that one, man, and the Knicks selecting Kevin Knox ahead of him, because he had the back concern, he fell, right? So don't forget Denver won their championship by having Bruce Brown. All these different role players that you need. To win a championship, it's going to become even harder now with this salary. With the restraints. More than not, you're going to have a team with drafted stars that's going to win you a chip. This Miami Heat thing, or the former Laker thing. They had Dwayne Wade, who was the establishment, right? You need some of that as well, and I think that's key to the building, because you get those guys on a discount as well for some of them too, fam. Reed Shepherd as well. I'm high on him, fam. AP, I'd be happy to sign for $3 million as well. Let's go. Can you shoot the ball? Can you rebound? Thibs will play. Load management on Randall. I think that's a big thing too. Randall, you want him to get through seasons healthy. But the Knicks are looking sexy, like D-Ras says, man. Great long-term building. And look, it started way back with Perry keeping these draft picks as well. Right after Phil Jackson left, that's when things started to look up. Fam, Fizdale left. Steve Mills was kind of, left, and then Scott Perry kept some of these draft picks, fam. Got Randall, got Mitch. And it just started from there, fam, as well. Learned his lesson from Evan Fournier, definitely. That was a great learning lesson too. And if all these guys have something in common, it's their two-way players, fam. Brunson gives you effort defensively, takes charges. DiVincenzo will D up. Josh Hart, may not shoot the ball that well, but D's up. Isaiah Hartenstein, two-way center as well. So continue just with those guys, and Look, a lot of people had high hopes about the Pelicans. That is a good blueprint. It might not be successful right now, but you saw the vision with Trey Murphy, Dyson Daniels, Alvarado, Brandon Ingram, Zion. I think you need a little bit of luck, development, but I think the Oklahoma City Thunder as well. Guys, Shai Gilgeous is a superstar because he can defend, he can score as well. See, one of the reasons why Giannis Antetokounmpo was an MVP because he was a monster offensively, but he was a great defensive player as well. His supporting cast has fallen off a little. Now we'll see what happens next. Joel Embiid, when he's healthy, he defends and he can score as well. So yeah, I think that's the way things are built, fam. Look at the Clippers, man. Kawhi Leonard has really started to decline now. Paul George, 34 now, as well. The sun is setting on the Clippers, I think, too. So I'm glad we avoided that. And just be patient, build young with that one. Yeah, look, the Julius Randle talk, there's a lot of conflicting opinions on it. I respect everybody's opinion. Everyone wants to build this thing a different way. But I think at minimum, Randle deserves another season to play with these guys, you know what I mean, before deciding anything on that. You know what I mean? I think, we could have definitely taken Boston down. We still might take them down. But we'll wait to see, fam. As we look at the score, man, Mavericks, Thunder are locked at 24-22 at the end of the first quarter, man. Looks like this team that wins tonight will be like last night's game. They'll be the one with the edge to go up. The Thunder are trying to keep home court right now. So it's going to be very interesting, fam. I had this thought last night where a lot of people were worried about the Knicks fighting for the second seed. Well, look how beneficial that it might end up being now with the Knicks winning maybe this series with the home court advantage, right? All that hustle that we fought in the final games of the season and beating Philadelphia now to get home court against the Pacers now, which is going to help us avoid Boston in this round and then also get through to the third round as well. So shout out to the hustle with that one. Finesse here says it, Boston are beatable. Boston are beatable. Danny, you want Randall traded? You disagree with that. Randall is at his highest value now. I don't disagree with that. I think Randall might be at his highest value now. I think that can be argued. I just think you can always make trades in season as well. I don't see the urgency to move a Jules. However, look, I know Leon Rose has shown, and one of the reasons why people have more confidence in Leon Rose is that he's not afraid to make big moves. I mean, I went back and forth about the RJ, scenarios, and people were like, there's no way they're trading RJ. And, there's no way they're trading quickly. And Leon Rose went and did it. So I think any move is possible if the play falls down. And I think one of the reasons why Leon Rose pulled the trigger eventually on the OG deal, when the Knicks had that string of games where we got blown out in the in-season tournament by Milwaukee, then we lost to Indiana. Then we lost to Oklahoma, where Shai Gilgeous went crazy. And then we played one other team, man, the Pelicans. I think we got blown out by Brandon Ingram. That was the last straw that broke the camel's back, man. All four of those wings went crazy on us. Haliburton, Giannis, Tatum killed us. Shai Gilgeous killed us. And then we lost, I think, to the Pelicans as well. And then Leon Rose is like, all right, we need a wing. We're not able to compete with these clubs without the wing. And then he went and did the trade immediately after that. So I think that was a key part of the season this year where Leon Rose just decided, man, we have to make that move. So I have confidence where, okay, if we start next season slow, things don't look right, that he will make the right moves, and do the right things as well. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that, fam. But look, one thing we can't argue about, fam, we root like hell for this squad right now. And look, man, let's talk a little bit more about Indiana closing it out in Indy. Game 6, we closed Philly out in Game 6 as well. Is it in the scriptures for the Knicks to close another series out on the road? Fam, this team has it in them. They are road warriors. And I think Jalen Brunson said it on his pod. I tweeted it out. He says, I play my best games on the road. I don't know why it is. Now, he didn't play well in Game 4, but I think he was clearly limited. Then he had an amazing game at MSG. Does he have his best game of the series, right, on Friday night and close this series out, fam? I think this team is going to play so hard on Friday with the 2-day rest. And I think it'll come down to the wire. I think we'll have our real best shot at closing it out in 6. And then hopefully we have something left in the tank if it goes 7. And then OG might be back for that one, fam. But let's get ready to wrap this baby up. Appreciate everyone rocking out with us today, right? It was a good chat with Coach Nick, BBallbreakdown. Check out his work, man. He just dropped a great video on the playoffs so far and Joker and the dominance and all the talk. But Jalen Brunson, man, getting a lot of love. Needs to get more love, right, as far as I'm concerned, right? You don't finish top 5 in the MVP and not be a superstar as well. Some of these people are straight hating and straight bugging right now, man. This is his 2nd season with the Knicks, fully depleted, and a top 5 MVP candidate, man. He should be a first-team All-NBA. No doubt about it. At the very least, be the first name called out for the 2nd-team All-NBA, too. But he didn't get any first-place MVP votes, but he got 3, I think he got 3 third-place votes as well. But look, Brunson's work, man, he's born to play basketball, like they say, but he's been trying to prove doubters wrong his entire life, and he's been proving them wrong. I think, look, Tyrese Haliburton was selected ahead of Tyrese for Team USA, and I think that also is something that motivates Brunson now too. He wants to be that leader. He came to the Knicks because he wanted to put a team on his back and be that leader, be the guy as well. And I think he's doing it so far, man. And there's no reason to doubt him right now. The only thing that can hold Brunson back is health, like we've seen. But even if he doesn't have it, I respect that he'll keep the rock moving and he'll try to make plays right now. But right now he's unguardable, and we'll see what the Pacers can have, fam, as well. Right, as we'll do post-game live Friday. Then Saturday night, we welcome back Bill Daughtry, right? ESPN, formerly WAFAN, New York City legend on the sports radio scene. MSG, formerly Bill Daughtry, back with us, man, on Saturday night with that one, fam. Jay Boogie doing amazing work as well, as we hear his track Mike Breen Bang as well. What a story this playoff run has been, man. Check out what Jay Boogie's dropping on his YouTube channel, right, with the Knicks anthem out there buzzing, right? And you guys have been buzzing tonight. Appreciate all the buzz and your thoughts. Let's get it on the next one. Friday night, let's close it out in 6. Go New York Knicks. Peace, everyone.